So let's improve our application a little bit. And for that, I will start in MongoDB actually. And I just want to make sure that I delete my user, which I created before we hashed the password and which therefore still has a plain text password stored. This user here. I will just delete it to have a cleaner database. The other user, as you can see, has a hashed password stored. Here it is. So that's just a tiny fix, however. With that fix, I will log in with that remaining user I have and create a new place again. So the good old place we already know, Marienplatz in München, which is still a very nice place, at least for tourists. The address is Marienplatz 1 for me here, and I will reuse that image I used before. Click Add Place, and it will of course work. Now we can also edit and delete this as you learned, as you saw before. And that's all nice, but anyone can do that. Here in our app, only we see these buttons. If we would log in with a different user, they would be gone because on the front end we have this check when we render these buttons, where we check whether the logged in user ID equals the creator ID of our places. We have no such check on the backend though. There, in places controller, when we delete a place, I find a place, I populate its creator, and then I just go ahead and I try to delete it. Now, this might fail because I'm trying to also remove that place from the array of places mapped to its creator, but this is not guaranteed. Most likely this will succeed. And for updating, here, update place, we're also not checking whether that place really belongs to the user who sent the request. We're just finding the place, we're editing it, and we're saving it back. So we have no checks on the backend to ensure that only the user who created a place is able to change it. I want to add such functionality though. And just to again highlight the problem, if I go to Atlas, to my places, and pick the ID of a place which is stored here, the place I just created, and I then go to Postman and send a patch request to this place. And there I need to add the authorization header here as well and set this to bearer and then a token. And now I need a token of a user who did not create that place. So for that, back on the front end, I will log out and create a brand new user. Manual, who surprisingly looks like me because I only have that image here. And now there, I'll of course use a different email address, create that user, and now I have Manuel as well. And Manuel did not create my place, so here in the app he doesn't see the buttons. But, of course, I can use Manuel now to still edit the place here. For that, I will just log Manuel in here with Postman. So send my test@test.com and the right password data to the login route. I get back a valid token because this login, of course, succeeded. And I can use this token now here on the patch request as my token I add here to bearer. And now send a request to that place I created on the other user, so not on Manuel but on Max, to change it. Marienplatz, and add multiple exclamation marks. A great place. If I do that and I hit send, this succeeds. It edited this. And therefore on the app, when I reload here, we see these changes. Now that's exactly what I don't want. So let's ensure this won't work anymore. And for that, on the backend, let's add some extra security. And let's start with updating. Here in update place, the goal is to ensure that we only continue if the user who's sending the request is the user who created the place. Now the good thing is in the check-off middleware, we are extracting user data and I'm storing the user ID here, which is part of the token. So that gives us the user ID of the user who sent the request. And this also can't be faked or anything by the client because it's part of the token. And if you would change data in the token, you would generate a new token which wouldn't be verifiable anymore with this private key. So it's 100% unfaked data. So we have that user ID stored in the user data object on our request. And therefore here in update place, once we made it through the general validation, we're looking for a place here, and a place has a creator field, of course, this one, and this will be the ID of a user. So then here we can just check if place.creator is not equal to request user data.user ID. If that's the case, we know they're not equal, and therefore we know, well, this user did not create this place. And in that case, I want to return an error, of course. You are not allowed to edit this place. And this now actually is a 401 error, because 401, which I used before, actually is an authorization error. I'll switch the other error codes in a second. And we send back this error if we determine that this user is not allowed to edit this place. And only if we make it past this check, so if the place was created by the right user, we allow this change. So now if I save this backend, and I try this same update request again with the same token, which still is valid here because it has been less than an hour that I got it, I get this error here, not authorized. Now, on the front end, we can check the opposite. If I log in with the user who did create that place, who should be able to edit it, I see that button, but now if I remove all the exclamation marks, I also get this error. So why is this not working? This, of course, should be working, right? This is the correct user. This is the right user. Now, this is not working because of the exact check we're running here. What's inside of creator? It's not a string that will equal this user ID here. Instead, it's an object of type mongoose object ID, this special ID type mongoose knows. So we have to convert it to a string by simply calling toString here, which is a method that will be available that will convert this to a string. And then this comparison here should succeed. So if we change this on the backend and we reload, now if I remove the exclamation marks here and I click update place, this succeeds. So now the user who created this is able to edit it, whilst the user who did not create it here, if we test it again in Postman, still gets an error. So this is now added authorization. Now feel free to also add this on your own to delete. I'll do it in the next lecture, and thereafter I'll also make sure that we use different HTTP status codes, which is just a minor thing, but still, to reflect the right kind of authentication error we're having, whether we're really not authenticated or maybe we are authenticated but we're not authorized.